Hey everyone, Brandy here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a face mask out of a t-shirt. Previously, my video that I have on my Facebook page is a cotton batik mask, and it's got strings, ties attached to it, and there's a full video on there for 1 hour, so if you want to make that kind, you can go ahead and follow along. It was made out of fabrics like this, batiks, so you can go ahead and check out the Quilter on Fire Facebook page to make that mask. But today I've had a request to make a face mask out of a t-shirt, and so I'm going to show you how to do that today. The one big difference between t-shirt material and the other material I just showed you is that t-shirt material is very stretchy. You can see that it's quite stretchy. You can feel it when you're wearing it. So you want to be very gentle with your material when you're cutting it and stitching it so that you're not stretching it too much. So here's how you're going to get started. You're going to take a t-shirt, and you can actually choose a specific area. You can use the front or the back of your t-shirt if there's a design on there, and you can actually cut out your mask so that your t-shirt, the feature of your t-shirt shows on the front of your mask. So when you're making a mask, you're going to cut it 9 inches wide by 14.5 inches long. And when you fold it and make the mask, this part will be the inside of your mask folded upside down, and this will be the front of your mask when it opens up on your face. So this is what people will see. So to cut this out, first things first, you're going to just trim your t-shirt. So let's start by trimming the t-shirt. We'll trim the sides first. I simply take each side off with the seams, and then I'm going to pull it down and show you where I trim off the sleeves. Simple as that. So once you have the sleeves and the sides trimmed off, you're going to open it up so that you can use both sides. And you can actually make up to 4 masks out of a t-shirt, but I really want to use this design. So if I cut out that piece, I could always use the bottom part here to make a 9-inch by 14.5 inch plain blue one, and I can do that on both sides. So you can actually make 4 masks out of each t-shirt. So I want to use both sides, and I'm not going to cut this out without opening up the shirt because the other side won't really line up to where I want to cut it out there. So I'm going to open up this shirt, make sure the other side of the shirt is out of the way. I'm actually going to cut the neckline off as well. So I'll simply just I want to make sure I've got at least 1.5 inches above my design. So I'm going to cut my neck off, and then I'll just get that other shirt out of the way. And then I can use that other side after. So now I'm going to make sure that I've got plenty of room to line up my shirt, and I'm going to cut this 9 inches by 14.5. So if you want this part placed right in front of your nose and mouth, you want to have about 1.5 inches above. So when I'm using my mat, I take a look at the side of my mat and I look at a 15-inch space. It's actually 14.5 inches. And then what I do is I line this up, the top of this, at about 13 inches. And then I put my ruler at 14.5. So I'm going to line that up at 13 inches. I can see my 13-inch line over there. I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to put my ruler at my 14.5-inch mark. And I can see that there's about 1.5 inches above where my design is, because that's going to be folded down a little bit later. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut along that line. And you've trimmed the top. So now I'm going to go down and I'm going to trim at the 1-inch line, and I'll actually move this up. I'll put it up to the 20-inch line so that you can see. And I'm going to go 14.5 inches down. So I'll just quickly measure 5, 10, 15, and then I'll go a 1/2 inch up. So I know that this is 14.5 inches. Okay, so I've got rid of the bottom. So now when I'm measuring the sides of it, I'm going to have 9 inches. So I want to kind of figure out where the center is. And it's about here, I guess, something like that. So then I want to go 4.5 inches away from each side. You can also adjust your shirt so that if you've got a line on your you want to make sure these boxes are straight or something like that, you've got a line on your mat that you want it to be the center. You can use that as your center line. And then you go 4.5 inches over from your center line. And then you cut one side, and then you go 4.5 inches over from your center line again. And cut. And then you're left with the piece that you're going to make your mask out of. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to fold this in half. And on either side, you want to make sure that the right sides are in. You're going to fold this in half, and you're going to mark 2 inches in on each side. So I'll move this over a little bit so that you can mark it. You can see that I've got 9 inches. So I'm going to take a pen. You can take a ruler as well, but we have the mat here. So I'm just going to draw a line 2 inches in, and then I'm going to sew from here to here, and then from here to here, and I'm going to leave this part wide open. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. So now that we've got this sewn, it looks like this. So you can see that I've stitched from here to here and from here to here. The next thing you're going to do is open it up, and you're going to press this open. So you're going to take this with your iron, and you're going to press this open, and you're going to fold this. You're going to be very gentle with this, but you're going to fold this open, press it open as well. And you're going to try to press this as if it's sewn. It's not sewn in the center where it's, you know, where there's a space there, there's a hole, but you want to press it like this so that you're pressing 1/4 inch on each side all the way over, and press it open. And then I'll show you where to stitch. So once you've got it pressed open, you're going to stitch along one line. So when you're choosing where to stitch, you're going to look inside, and you're going to say, okay, my feature is on this side. I want to stitch the other side. So when you close it, you put your feature on the right side, your feature that you want on your face, and then you're going to open this up, and you're going to put your hands inside of this, and you're going to stitch. When this is open, you're going to be stitching along the left side only. You're leaving this side unstitched. You're only stitching along the left side. And it's a little difficult to do this on the machine, so you're going to use your hands to feed this through the machine, and as you feed it through, you're going to move this out of the way. You're going to keep this folded. You're going to stitch, and you're going to keep moving this fabric underneath out of the way. And you're going to keep stitching all the way along until you have this type of scenario, and you're stitching the last little bit, and all this fabric is out of the way. Then when you're done, you pull it out from under your machine, and you have it stitched like this. So you have one side stitched and the side that's away from your main design. Okay, then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to fold it so that your main design is on the bottom, and you have your unstitched piece on the top. And you're going to put a 1/2 inch here. So you want to measure that with a ruler. You have a good half. You can even go to 3/4 inch if you want lots of room. Now you can see how this curls a little bit. You want to be gentle with it. We're going to pin right away. So you want to make sure there's about at least 1/2 inch. So this is about, if you see to the stitch line, you can move it a little bit further up. About a 1/2 inch there. Okay, so I got about a 1/2 inch to my stitch line, and then a 1/2 inch to my stitch line on that side. And then I'm going to pin my elastic in. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take 2 pieces of elastic, and you're going to take 4 pins, and you're going to pin this together. So you want the elastics, so you can see that the right sides are together. So you want the elastics to be on the inside, because when you turn it inside out, the elastics are going to end up on the outside. So I like to slide the elastics in through this hole. So just gently slide them in there until it pokes out the end, and then you line it up directly with the end. Then you take a pin and you pin it in place. So you've got one elastic there. Now I'll put the other one on the other side on top, and I'll keep sliding it through till I can see it poking out the end. Then I'll pull it back to the edge, grab onto it, and then I'll put a pin there too. When I'm pinning these, I make sure I have plenty of room for the feet, for the sewing foot to go over top. So now we're going to take these elastics inside and we're going to pin them down here. So you want to make sure your elastic's flat. And when you're turning it inside, you're going to turn it like this so that it's flat and it turns this way. So now I'm going to tuck it inside. I'm going to make sure I keep it flat. And I'm going to turn it. And you want it to go right in this little spot. So you're going to bring this down. You're going to open this up right where you need it to be. Tuck it under there and close it. It's going to be pulled together a little bit. Then you're going to grab it. Take your pin, stick it through, give yourself plenty of room for your machine foot to fit here, and you've got one side pinned. You can see that it's all bunched together, but you're going to sew half of it, and then once you get to there, you'll be able to pull this part straight and sew the second half of it. Okay, so again, on this side, the same thing. You want to make sure your elastic is flat, and then you're going to turn it. Going to tuck it inside. Going to grab it over here. Now, one thing that's really important on this step is you want to make sure you don't pull this and accidentally put your elastic in the wrong spot. You want to make sure this is completely flat, and you can even put a little crease there to make sure you know where it's going to go. I like to open this up, tuck the elastic in there flat, close it, pull it out of the way, and then I stick my pin in, and there you have it. So you're ready to stitch. So now that you have those, you're going to stitch on both sides. And one thing to mention about the stitch, when you're stitching on fabric that is stretchy, you can set your sewing machine to, a medium stretch fabric. If you have a very fancy machine, you choose the types of fabric. But generally, when you're sewing, you can use it's a tiny, tiny little zigzag that you use on stretch fabric. So I use the zigzag on these two seams, and I use it on the side seams. And then later on, when we turn it, I switch from my zigzag to a straight stitch, and I use like a nice top quilting stitch. So now we're going to go sew from here down to here. Okay, so once you have your elastic pinned into your mask, you're going to go back to your machine, and you want to be sewing this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you can either keep your needle centered and use a 1/4 inch foot. I have a larger foot, so I have my needle moved to the right a little bit to have a 1/4 inch. Or you can keep your needle centered and you can use the 1/4 inch marking if you have one on your machine. Either way, I'm using the tiniest little zigzag stitch that goes with stretchy fabric, and that's how I'm going to do this. So I start a little bit ahead, and then I'm going to back stitch. So we want to back stitch over that elastic to keep it extra secure. Then I switch around and I go forward. I'm going to sew to about the middle, keeping these flat because this is all bunched up. And then once I get close to the middle, I'm making sure no other fabric underneath is getting caught. Then I can pull this where I have my needle secure, or my pin secure in here. Trying not to stretch too much. I can take this other pin out so it doesn't get in the way. And then I'm going to stitch the rest. And then at the end I back stitch. So pin's gone, switch sides. So I'm going to start at the other side, and I'm keeping it the same seam allowance, everything's all the same. And then now I have it finished here, it's sewn on all sides, so we're going to turn it inside out, or right side out, excuse me. We're going to turn it right side out. So you're finished and you're done with this. So once you have this, you will turn it over and you'll start making your pleats like I showed you earlier. So once you get this turned around, you're going to press the sides. So I would press these edges. And if you're using a t-shirt material like this, you want to be very careful when you're pressing it because your iron can stick to this. So you want to use a pressing cloth if you can. Okay, or you can just do the edges without touching this part. Okay, so you want to make sure these edges are pressed. Press the bottom, press this side. And then once you have it all pressed, you're going to fold your pleats and stitch. So here's what you're left with on the back. So you can see that we have a hole here, and the reason we have this hole here is because we're creating a pocket so that we can put a filter in. So you might use a piece of coffee filter or something like that and put it inside. So we're going to do the pleats right now, and because it's t-shirt fabric, it's kind of thicker than the other fabric. I used 4 pleats on the other type of fabric, the cotton. This one I only use, well, actually 2 pleats. So I used 3 pleats on the other one, and this one only is going to have 2. So I take my first fold and I fold it up towards the edge, and I just fold it right close to where my pocket is, to my seam line. And then I'm going to fold it again and down. And then I'm going to flip it over. And I want to double check that my seams kind of look even. Right now I can see this is too small and this is a little big. So I want to show you on the side view. I'm hoping that you can see this okay. So on the side view, you can see how my pleats are kind of uneven. So I want my first pleat to go up to my stitch line. And I want my second pleat to be a little bit closer in size to my first pleat. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So now you can see that my pleats are a little bit more even. So that's what we want. And we want to make sure they don't overlap like this either, because that's too much fabric to get in your sewing machine. So you want to have them more like this. So this is what they will look like in the end. So now that I have my pleats, I'll just remind you that it's important to have them nice and even. So you can see that I've got this pleat is the same size as this pleat. They're about the same size. They're not overlapping here, because if they overlapped, it would be too thick, so you want to keep them like this. And then you can pin them. Pinning them keeps it nice and straight so that you can sort of see that both of your sides are equal. So my right side and my left side are kind of equal. And then when you're stitching, you want to be stitching down over these bumps, not against them. Okay, so we're going to start to stitch. So I'm going to change my machine now from that zigzaggy stitch to a straight stitch. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance again, but I'm making sure that my whole foot is on top. If I have my foot like this, that's where you really get messed up. You want to make sure that your whole foot is on top, and if possible, you want to move your needle to the right so you're as close to that seam as possible, or as close to the edge as possible. You want to try to be going over the elastic again, because you only have it maybe about a 1/4 inch in. So if possible. So I start on a little bit, and I start with a bit of a back stitch. Okay, and then I switch back, and then I go forward. So it's important while you're stitching this part that you're working hard to keep the underside, the top side, all nice and even and straight. And then at the end, I do a little back stitch again. Take it off. Okay, and then instead of turning it around so you're going against these, I put it on the inside of my machine. And then I switch my needle. If you see my needle, I'm going to switch it over to the other side. So it goes to the left. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, starting with my back stitch. And then I switch it to go forward. And when you keep your whole foot on there, the whole feed dogs are engaged. It pulls the fabric much easier, and you can get it to go through nice and straight. Back stitch at the end, and you're good to go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the nose piece. So I'm using a piece of craft wire. I think it's 24 gauge or something like that, but you can bend it to fit your nose really nicely, and it's quite comfortable. You can also use a twist tie if you don't have anything like this. And you can also buy medical grade type of nose pieces that are flat, but what I found with those is that they're really for one-time use, so they're not quite as good as this craft wire. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick the craft wire in here, and you could put a little piece of batting around it as well if you want to keep it nice and soft, but we're going to fold under that unsewn edge, and we're going to stitch down and then all the way across this edge to hold that wire in, and then up. So we're going to sew a little box around that wire. And you're going to make sure when you're sewing you're not catching this side, because this has to stay open as the pocket. So when you fold this under, you're going to line it up right with this seam, like this folded over stitched seam already. So you have it nice and lined up, nice and straight. You want to make sure, so to see how it's not folded under at the end, you want to make sure it's all folded under all the way, nice and straight, and then you're going to stitch on this side all the way down. So you're going to start, I start right on the edge here, and you can leave your needle where it is. If you leave your needle to the left, it's much easier when you're sewing along that wire because you can be beside the wire. Some people actually use a zipper foot here, which is also helpful, but I find if my needle's to the left, when I turn to go the other direction, I'm on the right side of that wire. So I'll go down and I'll do a little bit of a back stitch here first. I find that if I back stitch 5 stitches or so near the edge, and then I turn around, then it's nice and solid. And then I leave my needle down, turn, and then I'm continuing to make sure this is tucked under the whole way, and it's lined up with the fold that's already there. And you can see that my stitch, the wire's on the left side of my machine. I'm catching that 1/4 inch underneath, making sure this is tucked under all the way. And I'm stitching just past where it's sewn so that I'm closing that entire opening. And then I do 4 or 5 stitches forward and backward to finish it off. So you can see that this one is stitched on both sides, so the wire is stitched in and the pocket is open, and you can open it up wide, the pocket. And now if you want to stick a filter inside there, what you can do is you simply take a piece of, coffee filter or something like that. The size you would cut it is about 4 inches wide by 5 inches tall, and that will go right inside. So 4 inches wide, 5 inches tall, and when you open this up, it fits in there perfectly. You don't want any wider than 4 inches because it's not going to fit. You want to make sure it's 5 inches tall and 4 inches wide. So that's how big the filter will be if you're cutting coffee filters. So there you have it. That's how it looks with elastics on the edges instead of ties and stretchy fabric. It's very comfortable, actually. It's just as comfortable as the other one, but it's a little softer. And when you look at some of the research about what types of material to use, this one ranks really high. It's actually quite good. A little bit of a disclaimer, I should have probably done this at the beginning, but these type of face masks are not meant to protect you from COVID-19. They're not N95 worthy. They're not as good as them, but they do provide some protection. Some of the studies have said up to 50%, and if you put a filter, it can get over 60%. So it's best for keeping your cough and your droplets as you speak, those away from other people. That's what it's best for, and it does provide a little bit of a layer of protection, and it's better than nothing. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like some of the stuff I'm doing, please check out my other videos, click on subscribe, and check out my Quilter on Fire Facebook page and Instagram. I'll see you there. Take care.